fucking Warriors. Warriors never fucking move. Assholes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Legion Alpha, where I want to show you one of the most ridiculous classes available right now. I'm really sorry I've delayed this for so long, because honestly I've just been playing the shit out of it and just having fun. I am now a proud member of the 100 Club. If you don't know what that means, you soon will. Welcome to the Shadow Priest. What's going on with it? Well, a lot has changed. There's no orbs, there's none of that shit, there's no Devouring Plague spam or turret spam or anything like that. What we have is a very simple idea, but an idea that has been executed in such a wonderful, wonderful way. I'm really impressed, and there's a few things about this I think Blizzard will change, and I just sincerely hope they don't, for my own personal amusement, if I'm being honest. Let's get into it then. What is the idea? It still plays very similar to what you probably expect from a classic Shadow Priest. We still have Shadow of Pain, we still have Vampiric Touch, we've had since TBC, we still have Mind Blast, all the usual stuff's here. We still have Mindbender or Shadow Fiend. Shadow Word Death is still in there, although it's a little bit on the weak sauce side. That does not mean, though, that Shadow Priests are bad in the execute phase. Oh, no. No, they are not. We can still do things like Vampiric Embrace, although its healing is fucking atrocious. Depending on when you use it, it scales really weird. I actually think this thing has been hampered by the talent system. And then Purify Disease, and we can still dispel magic on the enemy. Remember, if you want to dispel yourself, you still have to master spell. I actually recorded a dungeon earlier and did a voiceover for it. But unfortunately, the healer couldn't dispel, which ruined the entire gameplay I was trying to show you. So we'll talk about the drawbacks as well. I am on the level 110 with all the relics. That's because I wanted to show you some of the cool animations that we get. So bear that in mind. The dungeon run we're going to do at the end of this, I truly hope you watch that. I'll try and join the 100 Club again in there. Is that it's much faster. This one's actually really slow. This early game of playing your Shadow Priest is going to depend very heavily on your haste. Like this 110 version, this pre-made version is horrible compared to my live version that's been leveled up. So what are we going to be doing? The new resource system is Insanity. So when you cast spells, and thankfully they now made it so that dots have some effect, you can see we start building this gauge. Mind Blast gives the most, Mind Flay Ticks gives some, you can see it here. These are all artifact things, I'll show you these in a second. And then you've got this very standard, very mundane, very low damage Shadow Priest. Okay? This is how it normally works. Now what you'll notice is this is lit up. This is your big thing, Void Form. This is your DPS cooldown, okay? It increases damage by 30%. It reduces the cooldown on Mind Blast by 3 seconds and grants an additional 1 haste every 1 second. Okay? Interesting. When we pop into Void Form, we're also going to get access to a new ability which is called Void Bolt. This sends a bolt of pure void energy at the enemy, causing 103,000 shadow damage, and refreshes Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch their original duration. Requires Void Form, okay? So if I put my dots on here and put some dots on here, when we go into Void Form, like this, now I'm in Void Form, you can see we've got these Cthulhu-esque tentacles coming out of here. We then get this new rotation where we're going to be trying to use Void Bolt on multiple targets, because that's going to refresh our dots. Now, the real aim of this is to stay in Void Form. Now, the way this works is pretty easy. You see this is wearing down. When you're inside Void Form, your Void Form does increase your haste. So you see here I got 20 stacks there. Don't worry about it right now. I'm not trying to do any maximum effects for the Shadow Priests who already know what's going on. My haste is increased by 20%. So I've come out of Void Form now. But what has happened is that I have lingering insanity. So while I'm in Void Form, I build these stacks up. And when Void Form ends, I get to keep those stacks until I next go into Void Form. Okay, so when I next go into Void Form, you see that duration was reduced from 40 seconds to 7 seconds. And that's so you can't just continuously stack on top of it. They do that completely intentionally. Okay, so you can see there I didn't cast anything, I got 8 stacks. And that'll stick around for a minute, or until I next enter Void Form. So while you're in Void Form, you'll obviously start at either 60 or 100 insanity, or 100 insanity. You start at 100 insanity. As your haste increases, so does the decay effect of your insanity. Your insanity starts to wear down. And the whole gameplay of the Shadow Priest is really simple. Stay in Void Form for as long as possible. And the way you do that is the abilities that you use while in the Void Form effect to keep increasing your insanity while you're in there. Okay, it's really easy. And the longer you're in there, the decay effect will increase and increase, so eventually you are pulled out of Void Form. You can't really avoid it in any way, shape, or form. Eventually it will run out. And then you get the buff after that until you get back into Void Form, get that 30% increased damage, and repeat the process again. It's a very, very simple idea. into Void Farm, stay there for as long as possible, get the biggest buff of haste you can possibly get, and then repeat. Real easy. So that is how the Shadow Priest plays. We have some obvious, very cool interactions with Void Bolt, especially at 3 targets. You can keep dots rolling nicely if your management's good. I will say that doing it on the alpha is a little pain in the ass, because add-ons are still a little, yeah. The UI for Blizzard is fucking terrible, so in the dungeon we're bound to screw that up at some point. But that's generally it. The other ability we get from our artifact, if I head back into Void Farm now, is we get something called Void Torrent. Now, Void Torrent is an ability that pauses the decay of your insanity. That's really important, because we have abilities like Mindbender, for example, that will actually generate insanity for us while we're pausing that insanity decay. So if I pop into Void Farm here and I start using Void Bolt on cooldown, this is your biggest priority while you're in Void Farm, even to the point of delaying casting anything else that's about to come off cooldown here. Then what we could do to sort of pause that, if I pop Mindbender now and then pause it with Void Torrent, and this is Void Torrent, you'll see my insanity continues to rise. And you can abuse that fact to get an extra amount of time under the effects of Void Farm, yeah? These are all different tricks and gameplay things that the player can do to extend the duration of Void Farm and get a bigger buff and get more damage out, because you still do 30% more damage while you're in there, right? And with artifact abilities, your dots do way more damage as well. All sorts of cool things happen while you're in Void Farm, so being in it for as long as possible is a big deal. So you will modify your gameplay in order to make that happen. And you will really focus. Trust me, when the Shadow Priests are going ham, expect complete silence or Ventrilo or TeamSpeak, because they are going to be like, just watch the fuck, shut up. I need to get this right, because if I fuck this up, I will be totally screwed. Void Torrent hits like a fucking freight train, right? You can see 510,000 damage over 4 seconds. Obviously, haste is involved in there, so it goes really, real quick. And it pauses your insanity. So you kind of have this moment where you want to use Void Torrent under the right conditions, but you don't want your Void Farm to run out. Do it wrong and you miss out on it, and you're like, motherfucker, I can't fucking believe it. And there are all kinds of things like that that happen with the Shadow Priest, which makes for some really, really fun gameplay. Let's look at the talents then. So our talents are all about what you're going to do. So at this point, I should mention Surrender to Madness. This is going to affect the decision-making process through your talent tree. Surrender to Madness is something that at first I thought was a big joke. Then I used it, and now I cannot imagine playing my Shadow Priest without it. I fucking love this thing. It's so good. Surrender to Madness. All your insanity generating abilities generate 200% more insanity. And you can cast while moving until you exit Void Farm. Then you die. Horribly. You die when you exit Void Farm. So you can see I entered and exit Void Farm real easily. Once your Void Farm ends under the effects of Surrender to Madness, it's a 10-minute cooldown, bearing that in mind, you will die. Now, you might think, oh, well, you can just Soulstone or maybe use combat reses. Maybe that's the mechanics he's talking about. Nope, you get a debuff saying you cannot be rezzed. You cannot be rezzed. So, I'm going to take it now, and then we'll do a run back, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So, Surrender to Madness is hella fun. Hella fun. If you get it right. If you fuck it up, or something in the game, like a knockback that you just weren't prepared for, or the boss doesn't really suit you doing it, fucks this up, you will just go, why you do this, please? Why did you do this to me? And you'd be perfectly within your rights to do that, because it's happened to me a couple of times and I've just been like, you motherfucker. So now we can enter Void Farm. In we go. You can pop Surrender to Madness at any time. It doesn't particularly matter. We're now under the effects of Surrender to Madness, okay? So, as normal, we now have 200% generation to our insanity abilities. That means that we have absolute fun in trying to stay in it, right? It's way more important now that we stay in Void Farm, because we're going to die when this runs out. We're not going to be able to be rezzed. This is all the things that happen. It's, like, really scary. So, we have a lot of fun with this. I'll try and stay in. So, let's pop our Mindbender now so we start getting more. And you'll notice about, like, 35 stacks. Now, the 100 Club is when you hit 100 stacks. 100 stacks means that things have gone real fucking crazy with your gameplay. At that point, at 100 stacks, every single ability you have pretty much is instant cast, especially if you take certain talents, and then it gets real fucking funny. It really does get real fucking funny. Now, under the effects of this, you can generally get 2 Mindbenders under the right conditions. Bloodlust is always real help, and then I'm dead. You see what I mean? That's what happens. I'm not even sure what stacks you get to. Now you can see I have this debuff. Surrendered Soul cannot be revived by in-combat resurrection, so you do get the debuff. It seems, you probably look at the face of it and think that's real stupid. It's not. If you can manage this properly, you don't have a character with such low stats like I have who can actually cope with this situation, and you hit the breakpoints. There are various breakpoints. The scary part of being inside Serenity Madness is around 50 stacks. That's when you're still having to like cast Mind Blast and stuff. And, you know, you've got to wait a long time on Void Bolt. Once you kind of get through that, once you kind of get through that process, you can use Void Farm to kind of extend that. That's when Void Bolt becomes basically on the global cooldown and you can spam it. Also, you're going to have other effects like your Shadow of Pain is ticking extremely quickly, giving you more procs. Your Mind Blast is going to be proccing a hell of a lot. You still have things like Mind Bender. And reasonably speaking here, you should be able to commit to it via your talent tree to make it easier to use. So let's talk about that now I've given you the explanation of Serenity Madness. So we have Twist of Fate, 20% increased damage, 20% increased healing below 35%. You guys know about that one. It's old school. Fortress of the Mind, then Mind Flare and Mind Blast deal 10% more damage and generate 20% more insanity. This is generally my go-to. I love this one. Shadow Word Void is like an extra Mind Blast, generates more insanity. So Mind Blast generates 18, Shadow Word Void generates 30. I'm not a fan of this, and I'll explain why. It doesn't play into the playstyle of the Shadow Priest for me. It's like an extra Mind Blast, sure, but it's not a particular playstyle I enjoy. It works, for me, this works really well if you're going to just be popping in and out of Void Form a lot, so you're not committing to Serenity Madness. You're using one of the other level 100 talents, and there's a definite schism between, am I going to be getting the most out of my Serenity Madness or not? Shadow Word Void kind of fits into the niche there, although I generally prefer Fortress of the Mind. So at level 30 we have some movement speed stuff, and we also have Masochism, which is Shadow Mend, which is your go-to heal. You don't have Flash Heal or anything, you have Shadow Mend, which will get rid of the damage over time effect and turn that into a heal. So that only happens in combat. Shadow Mend doesn't hurt you if you're out of combat. So if you're leveling and stuff, this is fine. Leveling is great as a Shadow Priest, especially once you've got your stacks up. The very worst part of playing a Shadow Priest in the Legion version is the opening gambit. When you have no haste stacks, your character feels really lackluster. As soon as you get your first Void Form out of the way, you're laughing. You're all the way to the bank after that. And while leveling, you can keep that up continuously, so it's a lot of fun. Some CC at level 45. Mind Bomb, which is an AoE stun, which is nice. Psychic Voice, reduces cooldown on Psychic Scream, kind of boring. Dominant Mind, though, this means that instead of like taking, when you mind control something, instead of taking them over, they'll actually become a pet. And that does mean that you can get the benefits of any spells and stuff that they can affect. So if they have buffs and stuff, you can take a lot of advantage of that while leveling. The only bummer is that when you cast Shadow Fiend or Mindbender, it replaces it, which is really annoying. I hope they fix that in some way, because you can't have two pets as a Shadow Priest, right? So it just doesn't work at that point. So I hope that's a bug that they fix. Level 60 then, we have some interesting choices. We have Void Lord, which is Lingering Sanity persists for 8 seconds after you next enter Void Form. I quite like this if I'm doing like leveling and stuff. It means that if I get a decent haste buff, I pop back into Void Form. I have a lot of haste going into it to get me to the next stacks when it kind of gets replaced anyway. So it has a nice synergy to keep a smooth damage output. I quite like that. Void Rate, each time your Mind Flail deals damage, you gain 10% increased Mind Flay damage for 4 seconds, stacking 5 times. So it's kind of like a passive Mind Flay Insanity. I will say, very rarely am I casting my Mind Flay as a Shadow Priest once things get going. In the early days, when you're like, oh, I don't have any stacks or anything, and I'm just doing my usual sort of low damage. You gotta remember, this is really low damage, by the way. This is like the only time you're going to be casting some Mind Flays, really. But after this, once this passes, I don't really cast it that often at all, especially when everything goes down to like 1 global cooldown. Whether or not it affects the Void Tendrils, I don't know. I honestly don't know that. Reaper of Souls, though, this kind of plays as if you're committing to Serenity Madness, or if you're going to be killing a lot of ads. So Shadow of Death is now castable attacks below 35% health, and always generates Insanity. Now, Shadow of Death on its own only generates Insanity if you kill something. Okay, if you kill something, you'll get the Insanity. Other than that, it doesn't do any Insanity generation. That's really what we care about, especially if you're going for Serenity Madness. So what this means is, Serenity Madness is obviously something you generally want to use at the end of the fight, because you can't be combat resed after it. I can't wait to see how upper guilds actually abuse Serenity Madness in certain scenarios. I'm so excited to see that happen, and really hope this doesn't change because of that. I know it could be game-breaking. It could absolutely be game-breaking once you actually see Serenity Madness in action properly. But this gives you 1 extra instant global cooldown to generate a lot of Insanity. Okay, so this becomes really important. Again, it's getting over these thresholds. Because Serenity Madness can last like upwards of 2 minutes, you want to be using it before 35% health on most, especially normal and heroic and challenge world bosses. Excuse me. My kids have infected me with so much plague recently. So Reaper of Souls, once you get to that low 35%, not only do you use Void Bolt sort of almost instant cast, almost instant cast global cooldown-ish, you also have Shadow of Death to throw into the mix. This makes the propping up the insanity degradation, the decay effects, real easy. And once you reach that point, you're like having a shitload more fun because it's just like bam, 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 bam. It's so much fucking damage. So Reaper of Souls works well there, and also if you're killing a lot of ads. We have Sun Lane. This is going to try and make Vampiric Embrace more enticing. Increases the damage of Vampiric Touch. Nah. So it's really dull in my opinion. Auspicious Spirits. I'm really excited to see what happens with this sort of late game scaling. So your Shadowy Apparitions now deal 100% increased damage and generate 4 insanity. So if we have a really decent gear set, okay, if we have a really decent gear set, so you can see here, when your Shadow of Pain damage over time critically strikes. So what we want, if we have a really high crit set, and we are like pretty, like we are in Warlords of Draenor really, if your Auspicious Spirits are like, yeah, we're going to get a shitload of them, you guys will know that if you've played a sort of late game WoD Shadow Priest, that could really come into effect late game with some Surrender to Madness stuff. I would be really happy to see how that happens, but generally speaking, as your gear gets better, that should just become, I think this will become the default better one, which is a little sad. So Shadow of Pain periodic damage is a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Mind Blast. Now, you already seen that it procs fairly regularly anyway, but with the haste effect, once you start getting up to like 60 plus stacks, which is kind of a normal Surrender to Madness, you are a normal really decent gameplay with Mind Blast and maybe Bloodlust, you'll get up to like 60% stacks. Your Shadow of Pain is ticking way faster. Yeah, it's ticking way faster, especially on other ads, which means Mind Blast essentially becomes a no-casted spell again. So what you can have is this very regular thing that happens with the Shadow Priest, which is you have Void Bolt, basically spammable, you have Shadow of Death, which isn't cast, and you have Mind Blast, which you never cast anyway. And between the three, you start just pumping huge amounts of frothy, creamy justice into the enemy. Love this, especially if you could do all this while sort of dealing with 3 targets and you've got 3 Shadow of Pain sticking. Whoo! Things get fucking crazy. They get so crazy. Power Infusion, I really dislike this. Although it increases your insanity generation by 25% over 20 seconds. That seems really awesome. The way Mindbender works for me is just so much better mechanically for the gameplay of the Shadow Priest in all scenarios. I'm not talking just about Surrender to Madness here. The fact that you can pause your decay effect while in the effect of Void Form and have your Shadow Fiend propping that back up. I've had this extend my duration of Void Form massively because you can't predict exactly what's going to happen when you take things like Shadowy Insight and whether or not you'll hit Reaper of Souls or not. Mindbender, while using things like Void Torrent, or just the fact that Mindbender can sort of smooth out the fact that you're not getting procs. Yeah, it just gives that extra duration. Power Infusion is kind of set in stone, and with a 2-minute cooldown, you can't really get double the effect while under a long-term Void Form. Mindbender you can. With a 1-minute cooldown, you can squeeze in 2 of these, and that really helps prop things up. So I really just love how Mindbender works in this. Power Infusion is kind of great, but Mindbender just seems mechanically way better for me. Shadow Crash, which is generates 15 insanity and does some AoE damage. I guess I should point out the worst thing in the world with the Shadow Priest is that Mind Seer is still in the game, and it's fucking so boring compared to everything else you do as the Shadow Priest. Like, It's fine. You can use it while in the effect of Void Form. If you've got like 4 or 5 targets, it will give you a shitload of insanity. It does its job just okay. But it's just so dull. It's just fire and forget at that point. There's nothing much you can do about it. Well, eventually, the decay effect of Void Form will catch up to you and you'll just have to go back into it. It's so dull. So you can kind of augment that with Shadow Crash. I've got to be honest, I barely ever take this. I took it for testing purposes and they're like, yeah, this is crap. I don't want this. Okay, so let's get to level 100, which is honestly the worst of the bunch of all the talents, which is a shame because such a cool thing like Surrender to Madness exists in there, but I've explained that already. Your alternatives are Mind Spike. Okay, so Mind Spike is Mind Spike. Yeah, you can't cast it on the move. Instead of Mind Flare, you have these Mind Spikes. So, Mind Spike, you can kind of work it into your rotation. So what it's doing is it's going to stack up. You can stack it up to 10. Okay? And then you have this detonation effect, which is detonated by Mind Blast. So you can get it up to 10 like this. And then you Mind Blast it and it kind of explodes. It's so crap. I just don't understand this. If Mind Spike could be casted on the move, I could kind of see the benefit. But the fact of the matter is, you're never really getting it to 10 without delaying Mind Blast. And Mind Blast is so key to insanity generation. I just don't get it. It just seems so weird to me. Perhaps there's a gameplay element I'm missing. As always, I don't really do a lot of research for this. I'm trying to base it on my own gameplay experience. I've tried it out and just never really found the benefit of Mind Spike whatsoever. I'm not digging whatever it's supposed to be doing. If it's supposed to be like, oh, they deal, you know, when you detonate them with Mind Blast, you'll detonate these spikes, each dealing 200% of their original damage. If that's what it is, I'm just Mind Blasting a lot, and if it's just a straight up damage increase, instead of casting Mind Flay, it's just not interesting. It's not fun. Legacy of the Void is kind of your default then if you're not going to be using Surrender to Madness. So at least for me personally, it's my default. Void Form may be activated anytime your sanity level is 60 or higher. Now, that's not a big deal. Once you get decent haste stacks, you can get back to 100 in sanity real fucking licky split. The fact of the matter is, though, if you're not taking Surrender to Madness, this is kind of your go-to. And for trash and stuff, you know, you're doing dungeons or whatever, and leveling, you can just keep popping into Void Form and getting that 30% extra damage increase pretty regularly. You combine that with Void Lord, so you have 8 seconds of lingering insanity, so you keep your buff for longer while under the effects of Void Form. And yeah, Legacy of the Void is kind of okay. So, you've obviously seen, that's the talent system. Overall, pretty good. Level 100 seems like the absolute worst for me, personally. Let's look at the artifact abilities then. I wanted to show you because graphically it's very cool, although you have little to no interaction with it. There are a couple of important ones I want to point out. So your first one is Void Torrent. I showed you that in action. You also get the Sphere of Insanity, which looks glorious, by the way. While I'm building up here, let me read it for you. The Sphere of Insanity manifests during Void Form. Your Void Bolts, Mind Blasts, and Mind Flays cause the Sphere to duplicate 5% of their damage to all enemies inflicted by a Shadow and Pain. So it has a cleave potential. Now, you can obviously imagine this combined with Surrender to Madness, right? Where you're doing absolutely ridiculous damage. So here it is. I'm going to try and keep this going while I'm talking to you. It looks fucking awesome. This graphical effect is really, really cool. I absolutely adore how it looks. I think they've done a good job with that. But generally speaking, you can't do anything with it. Whatever you do in Void Form, which is something you'll be doing from like the start of the Shadow Priest, is how well are you going to manage your Void Form will just dictate how much damage it does. Not that it isn't a solid damage increase. Mass Hysteria is important. Every 1 second, Void Form increases the damage of Shadow and Pain and damage by 2%, stacking until Void Form ends. This gets real fucking wacky. Again, promoting the idea is just stay in Void Form as long as fucking possible and cool things will happen to you, bro. Trust us. I trust you. I believe you. I've experienced it. It's awesome. Call to the Void, then Mind Flay has a chance to spawn the Void tentacles that channel Mind Flay. So because that says Mind Flay, I kind of do think that has some interaction with Void Ray. Although I really hope it doesn't. I prefer the other two just from my own gameplay standpoint. I would really hate that this procs so often that Void Ray's like required. That would really suck fucking dick as far as I'm concerned. Because I personally don't cast Mind Flay a lot. I'm buffing a fucking artifact trait at that point. So I'm not sure if that is the case, honestly. I haven't checked, but we can find out and that might change towards the end of Alpha anyway. The rest of the stuff's not a big deal. One thing I do want to point out is the changes to Dispersion. I was surprised by this. Dispersion is now only like 60%. And it heals you. It feels really weak. Survivability on the Shadow Priest. I said leveling as a Shadow Priest is fine, and it absolutely is. Between Voidmend and the odd Vampiric Embrace, you'll be absolutely fine. And you can do some pretty cool things, especially because you'll be jumping in and out of Void Form all the time and getting those huge damage buffs, which really melts some enemies. Dispersion as a reliant thing is not that cool. If I've been in a scenario where things have gone wrong in, say, a dungeon, I haven't done a challenge mode on the Shadow Priest, but in the heroics and stuff, then you'll have that weird scenario where you'll be like, oh, I'll just Dispersion, and you still get your ass kicked. Like, you still get fucked right up. It does heal you for a decent amount. You can see it's ticking for 112k. That's okay, but you got to look that I have 1.6 million HP at this point, so you'll get a pretty decent heal out of it. You get, like, I think it's like 2/3 of your health back or something like that, so it's not too bad. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. We still have Powered Shield. You still have Master Spell to dispel yourself. We still have Silence. We still have that cool shit. We still have Slow as our Shackle of Dead. Slow. God, it's the same graphic. Shackle of Dead as our CC. And we also have Mind Control as well as they kept in Mind Vision, which I was really surprised by. I always think Mind Vision is such a cool spell that doesn't get used a lot. We still have Levitate, which is nice, which is always good. So that's your Shadow Priest. Now, I talked a lot about how it plays. Let's go have some fucking fun in a dungeon. For those of you who don't want spoiling on a dungeon, understood. But I'm going to go do it. So for the rest of you, come and let's see if we can hit the 100 club on camera. That would be real nice. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking with me. I say that this is 3 days after I did the first half of this video, and 9 dungeons later. Hopefully this one's going to be a great success. If things go well, what the fuck is that thing? I've never seen that before in here. If this goes well, I'll tell you the story of the other 8 dungeons that we did. And you can have a big giggle at my expense. I do think we're probably going to have to change the way we look at the classes, because it's taken me literal days to try and get this done. That's not cool. It's just like a huge waste of time. But nevertheless, we're here and we're doing things. We had a recent update to the alpha today. Literally today. One big problem with it is that, as you can probably tell if you look at my screen, we can no longer see, which is kind of funny, you can't see your dots on any of the targets anymore. I don't know what to say to this. This is the situation we're in. We can't see any of the dots. Oh, still people are dying. Tut, 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 tut. This is your AoE, by the way. Even if you're in Void form, it's just Mindseer when it's a lot of targets. There's not much else to it, unfortunately. I wish there was more to do than this, but there isn't. I will say that, generally speaking, I try and avoid wherever possible having to do mass AoE. If I can do some multi-dotting, I will do, even if that's, like, not technically correct sometimes. You know, if it's right at the border. Obviously, if it's shitloads, then that's what we'll do. Keep that Master Spell going. This dungeon is notoriously difficult, so just bear with me a second while I kind of get my game face on a little bit here and try and get us through this. Tank's dead. Let's drop a fade. Hilariously, we're bound to be somewhat top of the aggro lead. Drop a Master Spell, and go into the AoE. I need more Master Spell, goodness. Oh, it's just the slow, never mind. It's not actually making a big difference. What I'll do is I'll just keep my shield on myself, I think, is probably the best solution. Come out of this alive, I'll be happy. And some more ads. Cool. Dot them up. Really awkward to multi-dot with not only is Blizzard's UI generally pretty shit for it, generally speaking, it's pretty shit, but also they not being able to actually see your dots without just using Blizzard's nameplates. That's hardly ideal either. So, that's okay. That's okay. We'll get through it, and I think we're going to have some fun. So, what door's open? The left door. Okay, cool. This dungeon changes its pathway. What is the Silver Serpent? Oh, it's for a quest. Ah, can I pick up that quest all of inside? Is it a world quest? Uh-oh. Oh. There we go. Let me check in a sec. Oh, I hope I can actually get it from in here. Let's go straight into Void Farm. Already used my Vampiric Embrace despite the damage this thing does. Eyes of the Beast, let's avoid that. I will talk more about the mechanics as we get a little bit settled in here. We need to sort of plan our route a little bit effectively. Let's see if we can pick up this quest while we're here. I'll be curious to see whether you can actually pick it up. Vault of the Warden's Dungeon, the Eye of Ashara. Oh, the dungeons are on the map now. In fact, no, my world quests... Ah, I'm not 110, so never mind. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I've had to re-roll this class quite a few times. It was one of the earliest things I actually played in the alpha was the Shadow Priest. Just dot everything up. I really do love the multi-dotting style, which is basically using Void Bolt to refresh dots on things. Even with 2 targets, though, let's Mind Bomb these and get some stuns going. Even with 2 targets, you'll find that probably your Shadow of Pain is going to fall off, but that's okay. It's a simple reapplication at 3 mobs just to get that working. Which is fine and dandy. Okay, so let me explain what exactly I'm doing here. I'm playing a very basic spec here. We're going to go for... We do not have a Bloodlust, so it's unlikely we're going to hit the 100 club. Which is a shame. I really wanted to show that off. But we're not going to do it probably if the conditions aren't right. The bosses in here kind of are okay for going for it. A couple of them are at least, not all of them. And it really is a case that it's such a powerful cooldown, as I tried to explain in the first half of the video. It is really, really fucking powerful that it's not surprising that it does have drawbacks. There are times when it just doesn't work. That's okay in my mind. It doesn't need to be usable all the fucking time, unless they're like absolutely balanced around it. Let's see if we get a silence off on this guy. Get him over here. Tank's dead. Normal Archway. Get the stunt going, get the fade going. Can't dispel that buff on him. What is it? Oh, you can't even mouse over the buffs anymore. That's that bug. The bug today is just super fucking annoying, man. Like, really annoying. Let's pull off a Void Torrent on this guy where everyone gets settled. It'll at least nuke him down pretty fucking hardcore. You can see my stacks now starting to pile up. So we're looking on trash. If you're getting anywhere in lobby gear, I will say I did some leveling. I did some leveling while I was doing all these 8 dungeons and bits and bobs. So I actually got 4 levels, and that's seriously fucking wrecked my stats on my character, particularly the haste. So I'm not getting anywhere near as high a stacks as I got on the base level 100. I kind of almost wanted to make another Shadow Priest just so I could get those stats. But I have a lot more crit and stuff, so it's not the end of the world by any means. I wish I knew that. Can I Master Spell that buff? I think I missed there. Whoa. Oh, it casted it, and it still didn't do it. Okay. Fair enough. Let's move from that. So, you can see, and I think this is so cool, is that the base design of the Shadow Priest is so sticking to its roots. We still have this basic rotation in the early days of Mind Blast, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, yeah? It still lives to its roots, despite the fact that the gameplay has changed pretty dramatically. But that doesn't happen normally. On the face of it, you're presented with this very classic Shadow Priest design. Nothing that anybody's going to be like, oh, they've changed it completely, now it's awful. No, it still sticks very much to its roots. You still have your Mind Flay filler, particularly in the early days. Are you pulling these? Oh, okay. That's weird, but whatever. Wait till we cast the portal before we try and drop an instant Brand of the Legion. That's alright. Start doing our multi-dying and some Shadow Word Deaths. I am spec'd so that my Shadow Word Death will give me Insanity, even if I don't crit. I'm kind of committed for the most part. Usually I take Void Lord, but I don't think it's necessary here. To a Surrender Madness build, but we'll get there, so don't worry about that too much. Yeah, but your basic setup in the early days is very much stuck in the classic Shadow Priest style, which I don't think most people can get annoyed at. I think it's very fine to have that playstyle, and then what happens is the spec just fucking takes flight and says, you know what? We've got something new for you here, and we want you to try it out. Refresh Shadow Word Pain on there. Void Bolt it so all the dots are refreshed. Good. Mix it up. Love the multi-dotting playstyle. I actually really enjoy. One of the worst things I thought about the Shadow Priest is that constantly redotting does get quite tiresome all the time. You know, where you're just putting Pain up, you're just putting Vampiric Touch up and all that kind of shit. That gets old real quick. Void Bolt is a really cool solution to that for me personally. Like, to manage actually switching the targets and Void Bolting them, I think is absolutely a great solution to that. Because I'm still multi-dotting for the most part, you know what I mean? But I'm not having to just cast the same buttons over and over again and just, like, tracking the numbers. I could just Void Bolt between the targets and maintain that playstyle. Let's get the Shadow Word Pain Tech in, because we'll get some more Mind Blast procs, which is nice. Healer dead, that's not good. As you can probably imagine, Healer dead is not good, right? So let's go ham. Let's use a Vampiric Embrace. We're not going to get the most out of it by any means. Get the Mindbender up. AoE stun. Void Torrent the big dude. Alright, melt him down pretty quick. Throw in another Fade. Try and finish off this big dude if we can. Instant casts for days. God, I love Fade so much. Fade almost got me there, man. It almost got me there. Which is more than fine for my... Oh, they're still coming, which is kind of interesting. Fade made it work. You guys should also pay attention to see if Xal'atath starts talking to us. I very rarely notice it. I would be more than happy to set up an add-on, particularly on live, to see when Xal'atath says something to me. Like, if he's not impressed by what you did or you die or something, he starts giving you so much shit. It's really funny. Let's stun this, because the tank's still not here. And the Moon Kid appears to be AFK. Now he's back now. Good. I really hate this Mind Blast proc bug. It's so frustrating. If you're casting Mind Blast as the proc occurs, then it goes on cooldown. And you still have the instant cast buff. Like, you know, saying, you have a free instant cast Mind Blast, and it doesn't refresh. That could really screw up the old Serenity Madness, trust me. So we have this classic playstyle, and then the Void Bolt interaction, which just is refreshing all your dots, just makes that so much more fun. Straight up, just way more fun. It's not tiresome or annoying to keep multi-dotting lots of targets and running around the room. You're just keeping this Void Bolt bouncing around. Feels very much like Soul Swap. I'm talking classic sort of Cataclysm Soul Swap. It really feels like that in terms of dot refreshment. Is the playstyle I'm getting out of it. Let's talk about Void Farm then, and Void Farm's interest. Void Farm is so... I think a really great design of it, but something we were all... Obviously, most of us were pretty worried about in the early days, was whether or not... the Void Form was going to be really tricky at the beginning of a fight. Now, there are some definite problems with it. Those problems would certainly be the beginning of the fight. You generally want to do at least one full Void Form just for the sake of keeping up... let's move away from that. Just for the sake of keeping up your... or getting your, like, initial haste stacks, which are going to serve you through the rest of the fight. And that feels real like this one here. You see my initial one? It's getting like 17. Oh my god, and everyone's left the fucking group again. Ah! 10 dungeons deep. I've got to go 10 dungeons fucking deep without getting this. Sweet baby Jesus. I don't even know what to do at this point, guys. We just can't seem to get this dungeon in the can. I think I'm going to have to probably take this time to make a decision that I only do dungeons with friends. And it's like, we don't get that, we're not going to get it done. Alright, guys, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Well, hilariously, we had 2 instant replacements. We might not be fucked. We might not be fucked, but generally speaking, what you just saw is why this is my 10th dungeon. He's ninja pulled these. Let's try and bring them to the rest of the pack. I'll do the old shield him so he speeds up with body and soul, and I'll fade myself, and that should hopefully fix it. Okay, so let me continue on. This has been pretty much the worst week ever for trying to get stuff filmed for you guys. I like to do stuff with randoms. I know somebody was saying, just do it with people. Yeah, I know. But the randoms do generally give me a better idea of just how difficult people are finding this. So before I go and say things like, maybe, you know, maybe Blizzard is going to nerf this or not, this is how I find out. Is, you know, you have to check these things. Okay. So, I almost forget where I was now. Let's finish these off. And we're actually going to come to a boss now where we could probably... We have a Bloodlust. We have a Bloodlust now. Okay. We have a mage. This is cool. We might be able to rescue this with a quality Surrender to Madness. What I will say is the playstyle is really fun. Mixing up the talents is cool as well. If you want to go for a double Mind Blast spell or just go for something like Twist of Fate. I'm kind of everything but a Surrender to Madness build right now. For me, a lot of argument between my friends whether Auspicious Spirits is better because your crit chance and the chance of everything ticking goes way up. So... once you have better gear, that comes to be a... Oh, CC big guy leaps in. Yeah, this is probably going to be a wipe. But we'll see. This is the big threat here, over here. So, see all the Auspicious Spirits? I mean, those could all be generating insanity for me. Especially if you're doing, like, big multi-doing. Right, let's go. I don't really want to pop major cooldowns, but I'm pretty sure we're going to last more than 1 minute here. So I'm actually going to Void Torrent early here on the big Eridar. Probably Vampiric Embrace as well. Yeah, Shadow Word Death this bitch. Now you can see I'm almost got a Mind Bomb in the middle of this. Yeah, we got rid of the big one. Cool. That's good shit. This dungeon is pretty difficult, honestly. So I'm just going to try and keep everything up. Silence that. Back into Void Form. Ah! It's such a shame Dispersion's so fucking wank these days. It really is a shame Dispersion's so fucking bad. Dispersion isn't going to save your life anymore, and that's really quite sad. Nothing that can res. Okay. Okay, so let's do it. Boom. Surrender to Madness. We're going to do it. Ugh. Even if this is the only boss I show you. I'm not in a guild, so I can't res. I think all healers get the mass res, but yeah, maybe not. The DPSs. Priest spell. Okay. So, we're going to go for a full Surrender to Madness now. Hopefully, this is going to be pretty fun. Hopefully, we can hit the 100 club. We do have a Bloodlust. It's entirely possible. My stats are a little bit wonky, as I said. I have way less haste than I usually had. What have I got? Like, 6,000. It's not giving me that much, plus 18%. But we'll see what we can do. We can have some fun with it anyway. And then I'll talk a little bit about Insanity. And I'm probably not going to finish this dungeon, because it's going to take me fucking forever to finish this dungeon. Especially with the way the current grouping is. This group might be really good, honestly, but we'll see. I think our tank is probably new, which means the later trash is going to be an absolute fucking catastrophe. Believe me, if you've done this dungeon a few times, you'll know what I'm talking about. So the big thing with Surrender to Madness, how do you use it? Because obviously you want to be doing it, and you want the mob to die. You want the mob to die as you die, because we're going to die. And once you press it, you're committed. You're absolutely committed. You're absolutely committed, okay? So we need to time it for about 2 minutes is how I find it. You can do it for about 2 minutes. That's a good one. A good one will give you about 2 minutes, which is like 2 mind benders, 2 void torrents you can fit inside there if you pull it off correctly. So what I'll do is I'm going to go into a first void form, get our initial haste, and then I'm going to make a judgment on exactly how we're looking sort of damage-wise on the boss. And then I'm trying to try and guess whether it's going to be around 2 minutes. Now, this boss doesn't have a great deal of things that can stun you and knock you back, which is good. Movement is not a problem, really. Oh, that's new. Ow. Holy shit. That is new. Alright, so this is our first void farm. Not going to use any major cooldowns on this one. We're just going to get our initial haste stacks up. Let's put our VT back up. Use some Void Bolts. I'm aiming for about probably 20 stacks here. Yeah, 19. Not bad. Alright, so judging from the health, I think we're going to go for Serenity Madness on the next one. Let's move away out of that. And we will be ignoring ads when we do this. So bear that in mind. You do go full cheesy biscuit. So at about 25, 79. Here we go. Let's go. Serenity Madness activated. We're committed now, boys. Let's get the VT up. So there's going to be thresholds that we're going to be breaking through here to try and make sure this works. What I generally do is pay attention to my decay and see when I'm no longer hitting 100. That's when I'll pop a Mind Bender. That's going to start propping us up. Now, we're not going to get a full 100 stack because this boss is dying really quick. So let's Mind Bender. Yeah, we're still very early. I'm not going to get the 100 club. Not even close, in fact. Yeah, you can see we're still getting easily to 100. What I'll do is I'll wait till we're nearly there, and I'm just going to Void Torrent at the end of the fight. But you'll get the idea here. You have to be pretty focused on this, because things are going to start getting real fucking licky split fast. Okay, so what we want is our Void Bolt to go down to basically the global cooldown. I'm going to Void Torrent here, because otherwise we'll just miss out on all this creamy justice of damage. Yeah, we're only at 58. And goodbye! Goodbye, cruel world. Goodbye, cruel world. So that's generally how Serenity Madness works. It's a shame. I could have probably pulled it off from the start, although we didn't get any. We didn't get a Bloodlust, so that's something to say. So let's goof around and have a bit more fun. The insanity mechanic is really cool. You have to make when it gets really fast. It can, not only that, but it can really let you down. So let's lead the way here. These guys probably don't know where we go. We can't... Oh, there he is. Xal'atath was another nameless brute of Sargeras, pretending to aid these elves. Little do they know their fate. The interesting thing about that comment is it is very specific to this dungeon. That won't happen anywhere else. They've not just made a bunch of quotes that the dagger will cycle through. It really depends where you are and what you are doing. That's why people are like, I have no idea how many quotes Xal'atath has. Because it'll depend on what zone you're in. It'll depend on which quest you're doing. Oh, don't pull, don't pull, don't pull. It depends on... Ah, you pulled. What a noob. It depends on all those things. Instead of them just being blanket quotes that like occasionally go, doom, die. There's all kinds of things. There are some pretty standard ones. Like occasionally you can, if you kill a mob, he'll just say that was boring. Or something like that. Now, I will say you just saw then that you do die still after you kill the boss or whatever with Serenity Madness. I would love it if Xal'atath saved your ass if you killed something. That would be awesome. I think that'd be a really cool change if they just made it so that. But this is the latest build out of today and they have not put that in. So that's something to bear in mind there. The thresholds that you cross make a huge difference. And it is a huge risk-reward of using Serenity Madness. I will say that if you try and be reckless with it, I mean, in terms of not really thinking about exactly what the boss does, a good example is this is one of the dungeons I filmed before this, or tried to film, was the new one, the Court of Stars. Now, the first boss, every time I have done that fight, has always been pretty much stationary in terms of his positioning. So, it dies reasonably quick. So I popped my Serenity Madness, lol, somebody in the chat said, hey, Tank, you should move the boss to somewhere away from all the other trash in case they pull it. Although we had cleared most of the trash, there was no way that was going to happen. And he ran all the way back to a different area of the room, right? Now, what that means is that fight in particular has, some of you probably know this already, that fight in particular has a mechanic where he goes about 30% health, the boss runs away and drinks a flask. So guess what happens? I'm under the effects of Strength and Madness. We're a good 300-400 yards from where this guy runs off to do this shit. And lol. The guy just fucking takes off and I couldn't keep up with him. I died at 30% health and there was nothing I could do about it. There was no way I could keep DPSing for the distance the boss sped up and ran away. Which was a real shame. So you have to bear that in mind. If the boss has some sort of... Oh, Tour. Cool. I rarely get to see Tour. I hope they've upped the proc rate from the last time I tried that. Those are the kind of things you've got to be aware of. And you've also got to bear in mind things like Bloodlust early in the fight don't really benefit you at all. Because you obviously don't want to Strength and Madness early. That debuff saying that you can't be rezzed by, you know, while you're in combat. You can't be combat rezzed. You can't be soul stoned. None of that will happen. So you can't use Strength and Madness at the beginning. So it's very niche. But considering how powerful it is and the amount of damage that comes out of it, you will see that the bosses do melt. You're going to have a very, very au fait knowledge, particularly if you're raiding, of exactly how long this boss lives. Yeah? I mean, that is crucially important. Absolutely crucially important. If you don't know that information, you might as well just not fucking bother. Because you won't get a good one. It'll be a mess. You'll finish it too early, which is almost as bad as not having it. If you're going to commit to a Strength and Madness and you're going to finish it in a minute and you can last up to like 2 minutes with it, that's a big fucking bummer, dude. You just wasted a shitload of stuff. We've got 5 minutes, so I'm not going to be able to Strength and Madness this boss, which is a shame. I could Strength and Madness this boss relatively easy. The next boss, I can't. Yeah, you got to move away from that. Yeah. They explode. Don't pull more! Uh-oh. Let me do my awesome AoE. Let's Mind Bomb them. I can't believe how much usage I've had out of Mind Bomb. Mind Bomb is like almost on cooldown at this point. Oh, it's the 3. I thought it was the little ones. Never mind. Let's go into Void Form. These things really fucking hurt. Now, the biggest argument I've had with other people, with the Shadow Priest, and not an argument, but discussion, I think is the correct word there, is actually a good one. It's which talents are best for making the best use of Strength and Madness. And it all comes down to so many different factors. So many different factors into what exactly is the best talent cell. Because the thresholds really matter. I don't think you can get away with not having Reaper of Souls, which is your Shadow of Death, because once you hit above sort of 70 stacks, everything's global cooldown locked. And if you're not getting Mind Blast procs, which is the next one, is Mind Blast worth it at that point? I think so. I think Shadow Insight is way worth it there over Auspicious Spirits, but I can absolutely see that when my crit goes high enough, it won't be. That'll be a different kettle of fish completely. But it's all depending on different gearing setups and all that kind of stuff, yeah? It's like, what's best for you to make it work? If it's not going to work, it doesn't really matter. You can pick and choose whichever's going to be the best. I particularly don't like Shadow Word Void. I've not found it fun or interesting to use in any way. It's just, this feels to me just like a second Mind Blast. Although I appreciate it gives way more insanity. It's just not for me. I'm just not finding it fun whatsoever. Other than that, it's only Mind Spike that I think needs real change. You can probably Sun Lane. Power Infusion as well. I've had some arguments with Power Infusion, but I'm not seeing the benefit personally from my gameplay testing of Power Infusion being better. I mean, that 20-second period is fine and all, but you kind of can only use it right at the very end to really, or even just to cross some thresholds. But Mindbender for me, it's giving like 15 insanity per tick. There's a boss here. These guys don't know. There's a boss here, by the way. A spider. It's a spider. This is like a gauntlet. See, look at Dispersion. Dispersion not doing your fucking job, bro. Yeah. Dispersion not putting... Oh, is that Arcane? Oh, they pulled the next trash. Oh, this is a wipe. I don't actually mind if the groups fall apart now. I think I've demonstrated some cool stuff. We had not the best Strength and Madness, but you're not going to get that outside of a raid, really, like, consistently. You're not going to get it. You can do it in some bosses. Violet Hold's actually really good for Serenity Madness. Because it's all timed, pretty much. You get to use... I used 3, I think, in the last one, which was nice. And plus, that's where I hit my first 100, because the bosses have a decent amount of health. So that's a good place. These, not so much. A lot of disruption in here. The next boss we're going to fight, the spiders, pretty good for it. In fact, it's only a minute 24. Okay, I'll hang on. As long as this group doesn't fall apart now. Everyone stick around. I'll hang on to probably use Strength of Madness on the spider. Even though I die a lot. Yeah, well, this dungeon is notorious. I'm surprised we made it this far. I would like to show you the rats at the end of the dungeon. The rats absolutely destroy all bugs. It's really funny, those rat bastards. The rats really fuck you up. So that'll be fun. Anything else to tell you about the Shadow Priest? Not really. I just fucking love this thing. I have so much fun with it. I have so much fun with it. It's always nice, although I'm not, I'm obviously not playing my best here while talking to you guys about various mechanics. But I just love that the decision-making process while you're under the effects of Void Form just consistently change. Like, Void Bolt is so important. It's such a low cooldown. It's only like nearly 4 seconds there. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, obviously. That's like the worst case scenario of the cooldown of it. Is that oftentimes you have to make decisions as a player, like to hold back a global cooldown, which is something Shadow Priest will be pretty okay with, because it's something that you've been doing since forever, really, with making sure you like didn't cancel a Mind Flare until it did its tick. It's a kind of similar mechanic to that, because obviously you've already casted the spell, but you haven't had the benefit of the damage yet, so you need to wait a second. And a lot of that ties into how the Shadow Priest plays now, which I really adore. It also has that turret playstyle I think people from Warlords of Draenor probably fell in love with, or a lot of people fell in love with. No, stop going. Stop. This is our boss. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh. Oh, it's a boss. I just see the boss. Where's the boss? Oh, there he is. See him? Slash point. There we go. Uh-oh. Demon Hunter aggro. Demon Hunter aggro is the worst. Mind Sear! Skill attack! Oh, he Blade Stormed it. Thank you, bro. I actually loved that this warrior Blade Stormed, therefore I didn't have to bother. Can I stun this? Maybe. Yeah. Not the ones... I don't think I can stun the ones that are in the... that are actually doing the face hugger type business. That's a shame. Ah! Lots of them. These things really suck. These things really suck. Right, let's get some haste. Let's do a Void Farm to get some haste for the boss. The shield. Shield does so fucking little. 90,000. I have 1.3 million HP. It does 90,000. I mean, dude, what? The fuck am I supposed to do with that? Don't kill me! Dispersion. I'll get way less haste, but it's worth. I'm still face hugged. Dispersion's 60%. Ugh. What did I get? 90 stacks? Ah, it's not bad. Now, fuck it. Can we get Lust on this one? I'm gonna go for it from the start. Oh, I'm too much of a pussy. I'm too much of a pussy, man. Too much of a pussy. I've asked for Lust. Let's see what happens. The problem is, people die during this fight. That's the fear. That's the real fear. I mean, I can still pop into Strength of Madness at any time I want, really. But so I'm just thinking. You need to make a decision. Fuck it. Strength of Madness. Right, we're off. We're committed now, boys. Right, let's just keep an eye on this damage. Let me try and focus. Don't Tangled Web me, you motherfucker! Luckily, we could cast on the move. Broke it. No, don't turn around on me. Void Torrent, let's all the procs and stuff happen. We need to try and get to Shadow Word Death range, or this is not going to work. Ah! We're almost at 1 second global cooldowns. No, dude! Can you fucking move as well, bro? Jesus! Oh, come on! Look how far I had to fucking run there. God damn it. Fucking didn't move at all. Bastard. That's the kind of shit that screws. At least I didn't die to Serenity Madness. We would have been fucking golden. We just hit the fucking Shadow of Death. We were golden. We were golden. Mindbender was back. It was golden. Fucking Warriors. Warriors never fucking move. Assholes. You fucks it up, man. Whatever. Almost made it. But again, these are the things that are going to happen with Serenity. I can't help that. I would have died regardless. Serenity Madness had absolutely nothing to do with it. They try. Blizzard tries. They're like, look, we'll let you DPS on the move, but that's not going to stop somebody who's planted his feet and isn't going anywhere, unfortunately. That's going to be it. I'm not going to continue this dungeon because I think I've shown exactly how it works, and it's so much fun. The drawbacks are real. They are fucking real. But honestly, I get passionate about playing this. I'm passionate about it. I give a shit. I'm like, dude, that was going to be awesome and you fucked me. Or if it is awesome, it's like, this is awesome. This is so good. And that's a passion that I think most people will appreciate, honestly. Tangled web. Run away. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it's normal. It still kills you if you don't fucking do the mechanics, though. Ladies and gentlemen, the Shadow Priest. Enjoy it. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.